Today on Freedom Alive, a story of the amazing redemptive love of Jesus and his life-changing power. Welcome to Freedom Alive. It's hard for any of us to imagine the terror of being trapped in a room under siege. In this hopeless situation, as the sounds of gunfire get closer and closer, what would you be thinking? And who would you turn to? Today, you're going to hear firsthand from Angel Colon and Ruiz, who both survived this nightmare, and each has experienced the life-changing power of Jesus Christ. Plus, tyranny never sleeps, and my co-host Matt Staver from Liberty Counsel is here to tell us the latest that's going on in America in his Freedom Update. Matt, welcome. It's exciting to bring these two powerful testimonies to our viewers. And as I think about Angel and Luis's story, one of my favorite verses in the Bible is Deuteronomy 4:29. But if from there, if you seek the Lord with all of your heart and all of your soul, you'll find him. Mm-hmm. So the key words to me there have always been, but if from there.
Yeah.
No matter where we find ourselves, we are never out of the reach of God's redemptive love, grace, and mercy. But what two stories we have to share today, right?
Exactly. In Genesis 50, where Joseph is speaking to his brothers, what you intended for evil, what Satan intends for evil, God turns around for good. And that's the amazing redemptive story that we have today. And I am very much looking forward to sharing that story and sharing it with our viewing audience.
I can't wait. I can't wait. First, let's roll with our Freedom Update.
The essence of counseling is that clients get to choose the counselor of their choice and set the ultimate objective. Counselors are like a GPS. When you get in the car, you set your GPS to a destination, and it leads you to that destination. It doesn't tell you where you want to go before you tell it your ultimate objective. Counselors are like that. They're not going to force you or shouldn't force you in a particular direction, but they help you like a GPS reach that objective. And yet there's laws across the country that say counselors and clients can have whatever kind of counsel they want unless someone wants to overcome the struggles they're experiencing with same-sex attractions, behaviors, or gender identity. And that's why Liberty Counsel, we're litigating these cases around the country. We've had some pretty amazing wins recently, but we are not finished until we get one of these to the United States Supreme Court, because our objective is to make sure that the government stays out of the privacy of the counseling room. There's no room in the counseling room for a government bureaucrat to tell the counselor what he or she can counsel, or a client what's off limits or what's acceptable. That's a private decision by the counselor and the client. And there are certain laws, even the federal bill known as the Equality Act, that seeks to ban that kind of counsel, life-changing counsel. We know that obviously there's change possible for anything that we do. We oftentimes look at the problem, but what Jesus looks at is the heart. And one of my friends, Ruiz, who had a terrifying experience at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, says, it's not gay to straight, it's lost to save. And Angel Colon said that it was a heart issue, and when he realized that, his life was miraculously changed. We need to make sure that counselors and clients are able to experience that life-changing experience that comes from Jesus Christ.
Matt, thanks again for that update. I love them every week. It reminds me of the objective of Freedom Alive, which is peace, hope, truth, and courage in a confusing time in our country. You spent a few minutes on really amplifying how God's people are blessed when they choose courage instead of fear during this time, right? Are there any other examples of that? I know you have many.
Well, the Romanian churches that we represent in Illinois, particularly the one in Chicago, Elim Romanian Pentecostal Church, had incredible opposition. And still, in fact, the disorderly conduct is pending against the pastor as we speak for having more than 10 people in the service. They threatened to bulldoze the building down. That's how extreme it went. But despite that, I remember talking to the pastor on Saturday afternoon, not knowing what was going to happen Sunday morning when they opened the church, prepared for anything to happen. And yet, in 2020, this church now is opening up a larger sanctuary because of the large crowds that it has. And this is a Romanian immigrant community, all of whom have experienced Marxist tyranny in Romania, or their parents have. This is an incredible blessing that we're seeing around the country, and it is cross denominations. The one thing that's in common is pastors and churches that have said, we're drawing a line and we're going to follow the Lord despite the consequences. And it's been tough, but God has ultimately brought amazing blessings. And that's the way it is with any one of our lives. We may face opposition, and it's not comfortable, but God is still faithful and is still in control.
Amen. I love that parallel. And I'm reminded, for those of you at home, of our local pastors and our national ministries who are often sharing that news. Do not be afraid. And I think it's over 365 times in the Bible. God just exhorts us, do not be afraid. Have courage. And these are great, great examples, but the parallels to our own life, especially during this unbelievable time in our country from many, many respects. Have courage. Do not be afraid. So with that, let's move into our interview with Angel and Ruiz.
Well, I'm very excited about having our very special guest, Angel Colon and Luis J. Ruiz. And you have an amazing experience that nobody would want to go through, at least on the tragedy side of things. Because in June of 2016, I remember it very well, right in Orlando, Florida, this person came into the Pulse nightclub and just began shooting up everybody. And it gained worldwide news for months and months. And you were actually part of that. You were in that situation. It's unbelievable and frankly undescribable. But as a result of that tragedy, new life and new birth came out of it. And I want to talk about that part of your stories as well. But Angel, thank you for sharing with us. Tell us what happened that night in June of 2016 in the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, that year, it was a big year for me already. I was already fed up with the lifestyle, with living a certain way, with being, as I call it, a hot mess in my life. And that year, actually, in April, before everything happened, I spoke to the Lord and I did a prayer, and I call it the dangerous prayer. I said, Lord, I want to come back to you. I want to come back to you. I just don't know how to do it on my own will, on my own strength. I need your help. And I said, Lord, allow me to go through whatever I have to go through for me to come back to you.
Wow, that is a dangerous prayer.
Yeah, because I've heard it before. I've heard people, you know, asking God, well, do this, and I don't care what happens to me, and I don't, you know, so I said, all right, Lord, allow me to go through anything, and I don't care what it is. I just need to come back to you. And
you were raised in a Christian home.
Yes.
And then
born and raised.
At some point in time, you got involved in same-sex homosexual lifestyle, relations.
Yes, at the age of 18, I left my home, I left church, I left everything, and I went head on into the gay lifestyle. Yes, but then after that prayer, I totally forgot about that prayer, and June 2016 came around. That weekend, I was at work, I was let go early, and I ended up going out that night. And at 2:02 a.m., my life changed completely. I remember they had called last call. I got my last drink. I came back into the main dance floor. And I remember at 2:02, I hear a loud pop in the right of my ear. Very loud, very loud. I remember it was loud. I got scared. I jumped. I dropped my drink. I remember seeing a flash in front of my eyes. And quickly after that, I just heard it pop, 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 really fast. I turned to my left and I ran about 2 or 3 steps, and I was shot instantly in my legs. I remember feeling hot taps behind my legs. I was confused. I didn't really know what was going on because I didn't expect something like that to happen at a gay club. and a small club as well. It was a very small club. But I remember I started to feel hot taps behind my legs, and I fell. I tried to get back up, but in seconds, the club was in chaos.
Yeah.
The screamings, the jumping, everyone was trying to jump over each other, trampling each other. Everyone was trying to get out a certain door, you know? So the moment that I tried to get back up, I remember I felt someone jump on me, and I felt a foot behind my left femur. And I remember over the music, over the screams, I hear a snap. And I remember feeling the most excruciating pain that I've ever felt in my life. My femur being broken in half, and I fell right back down. I couldn't go anywhere.
So you're already shot. Now you have a broken femur.
I was shot. Now I have a broken leg. I couldn't move. The door was so close yet so far away because I can't get to it. You know, so I just kept on hearing the shots going on. Every time I looked up, I see the bodies fall one by one. And still, I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was like a gang fight. Someone came in to shoot someone. You know, never in my life I would have thought I would be involved in something like this. And people started to fall on top of each other. And an older lady fell right next to me, and she was in pain. So I remember I grabbed her hand and I told her, it's going to be okay. We're going to be just fine.
So you're laying on the ground, bleeding, cannot move.
Yeah.
There's a lady that's also on the ground beside you, and you're holding her hand, trying to give her assurance.
Yeah. You know, I've always been that kind of person that is trying to make people feel comfortable and care and all that. So at that moment, that was the first instinct was, okay, I'm take care of this person. So I remember I grabbed her hand and I told her, it's going to be okay. You have to calm down. We're both bleeding. If we react like this, the blood's going to come out faster. So at that moment, I hear the shots going on outside, and he's in the patio area. I hear the screams outside. He's shooting people outside. And I take this moment to look around, and I just see the bodies all around. It's dark. I could see people barely moving. And I'm trying to pinch myself, to hit myself. And I'm telling myself, Angel, this is a nightmare. This is not real. This is not real. And at that moment, I hear footsteps coming into the door. And I start to hear...
So the shooter comes back in.
Yeah. And this moment, I start to hear pops. But it was slower this time. I hear pop, pop. And I realized now he's shooting everyone that's on the floor.
So he's going person to person to see if you're alive, to finish you off.
Now he's shooting every single person, making sure everyone's dead.
Everyone's dead.
And, you know, in the inside, I'm starting to panic because he's not far away from me. The lady is still yelling because she's in pain. So I tell her, you have to be quiet. We have to pretend that we're dead. Hold your breath, don't move, because he's coming our way. And I can hear the pops coming closer and closer. So at that moment, I tell myself, Angel, cover your head, close your eyes, hold your breath, do not move. Pretend you're dead. And I hear a loud pop, just like the first pop that I heard, really, really loud. And I remember I got scared and I opened my eyes, and I remember seeing the body of the lady just jump up and down. I remember...
He shot her.
I felt her hand let loose of my hand. And I looked at her face and I see her eyes just close. And I'm panicking in the inside. I'm trying to pretend that I'm dead. But at the same time, you know, I never in my life would have thought I would have seen someone get murdered right in front of my face, someone that I'm trying to help. I'm trying to hold her hand still. So I'm thinking, he knows I'm alive. He knows I'm alive. I'm right next to her. I'm covering my face. And I thought to myself, you're next, Angel. You're dying. I was out in the open. There was nothing on top of me. And I can feel him right behind me. And I can feel that stare, like when someone is just staring at you. But the weird thing was that nothing was happening. It was like time froze. And I remember I told myself, okay, Angel, this is the moment God gave you to make peace with him because you're about to die. You're about to die, and he's giving you the time, you know, to speak to him. So I remember I started to pray in my head. I started to pray. I started to ask for forgiveness. I started to tell the Lord, Lord, I'm sorry that I left you. You never left my side, but I left your side. But I'm so sorry for that. I'm about to die right now. So please take me with you, Lord. Take me with you. And as I was praying, it was like still time was frozen and nothing was happening. It was weird because I could feel him right behind me. But then at that moment, I changed my prayer and something happened in the atmosphere and I started to prophesy over my life. And I said, you know what, Lord? No, I'm not leaving here dead today. Wow. I'm leaving here alive. You promised me that there was purpose in my life. You promised me that there was something big that's about to happen and it hasn't happened yet. So that means that I'm not going to leave here dead. I'm going to leave here alive. And I kept on prophesying over my life. You promised my mom that her son had purpose in life. So you're not leaving here dead today. And it was like there was spiritual warfare going on top of me at that moment. Yeah. And that's when I understood that the Lord has given you power and authority to change the atmosphere and to change the plans of the enemy. At that moment, I was changing the plans of the enemy. You know, he thought he was going to kill me, but I was leaving there alive. Wow. And I remember the moment that I said amen in my head. I said amen, and right there I hear a pop. And I remember it was loud like the first one. I felt my body jump up and down from the ground. I remember feeling pain in my midsection. I felt everything hot. I felt like something hot was leaving my body, and I realized that he was again shooting me on the ground. Wow. But the crazy thing is, because of that prayer, I didn't twitch. I didn't yell. I didn't move. I didn't scream. I didn't do anything. I stood there. Till this day, I don't know how, of course, the Lord. Yeah. But I acted like I was dead that whole time. You know, so at that moment, I hear steps going. He goes into the other room, and I hear the shots going on in the other room. But I see black. So I thought to myself, Angel, you're dead. He just shot you again. You're dead. But I opened my eyes at that moment, and I could just thank the Lord. You know, everyone around me was dead. Everyone around me was dead. And at that moment, I see some lights coming in through the door, and it was the police. And they, as low as they could, they asked, who's alive? And I raised my hand real quick, and they came to me. It was Officer Omar Delgado, wow, which I still speak to today. He came to me. I asked him, can you please carry me? I can't move. I can't feel my legs. I can't walk. And he said, I can't carry you now. It's a procedure. If there's a lot of bodies on the ground, I can't carry you. I can only drag you out of here. And I said, okay, that's fine. Just please get me out of here. And I remember he grabbed me, flipped me over, and he started to run. And I said to him, run, just get me out of here. I can hear the shots going on in the other room, so I was scared that the shooter was going to come in and start shooting us. Thank God I made it across the street. He got me out of that building. Got to the hospital. By the grace of God, I got into surgery at 10 a.m. in the morning. Wow. And
I understand that afterward they said that if it had been 5 minutes difference,
yeah,
if they hadn't gotten there until 5 minutes plus after, you would have bled to death.
The paramedic told me, Angel, if you were on the ground for 5 more minutes, you would have been gone because I was losing too much blood. And
you didn't get shot, but you got trampled.
Yes.
And you were in the club as well. Same night with Luis, or with Angel. And so, Luis, what happened in your situation?
Yeah, so I was actually, like Angel said, I was also getting to a place where I was tired. You know, same thing over and over.
You raised in a Christian family as well?
Yes, I was raised in a Christian, and I really feel like that played a lot in,
and then somehow you got involved in the gay lifestyle.
Yes, yep. They didn't talk too much about it at church, and when you don't find that kind of response or answer in the church, you go outside looking for other answers. Yeah, so I want to go back just a year back when I came to the Lord. I was really drunk. I ended up at a church, and it was open at like 3 a.m, and they're worshiping.
The church was open at 3 a.m.
And I don't even know how I ended up there. I looked up, and there's a church, and I hear them singing, and I'm like tipsy and drunk, and I get in there, and long story short, I accepted the Lord.
Wow.
And
this is after Pulse.
This is before Pulse, a year before.
Pulse. Okay.
Yeah. So leading up to that, I was in church for a whole year, and I came from places where, because I grew up in the church, I would try to come back to church here and there because I would miss it. You know, you instruct.
But then you still got drug into different directions.
Because I didn't get that help, that counseling, and so then my through that year before Pulse, my mom calls me and she's like, "Hey, I had a dream about you. You were at a nightclub. There was blood all over your clothes. You were asking for help." And at the moment, I'm like, "Mom, I'm at church right now. You don't have to worry. I'll be at church on Sunday, you know?" But she always had these dreams, and this one felt so real. So who would have known that a year later I would end up struggling and just figuring it all out on my own, or trying to, that I ended up at a house party and where I saw Angel. And I remember Angel asking me, like, "Where you been?" And I'm like, "I've been at church for a year." and then from there.
So then you went to Pulse that night.
Yeah, so that
you
night.
You hadn't been going there regularly.
Right, for a whole year.
For a whole year.
Because I disconnected from everything just to try to pray the gay away, or things like that. And so we ended up at Pulse nightclub. It was so tough. I think it took us 30 minutes to get everyone to go, because there was just people that didn't want to go. They said, "Hey, we got alcohol here, we got food here. Why don't we just stay here?"
Yeah.
And we ended up at Pulse. I remember it being a really good night. I saw a lot of friends that asked me the same question: "Where you been for a whole year?" And just having to give them the answer, I've been in church. And so I remember it was last call for alcohol. And I was dancing with my friends that are no longer here. And we hear someone yelling, "Run for your life." And I remember I asked my friend, I said, what's going on? Like, they just said last call for alcohol, and I feel like they're trying to kick us out. I didn't think of,
Nobody would think of that.
And then I heard what sounded like fireworks. And I was just like, wait a minute, I know Disney's close, but not that close. And all of a sudden, like, the shooter's right in front of me. And I could see the muzzle going off, the fire going off, and everyone running. And I was still kind of tipsy. And I thank God that my friend grabbed me by the waist and he said, "Run." And as I'm running, I turned back and he was shot. His boyfriend was shot. There's people all over the floor. There's blood everywhere. And there's a small door that everyone's trying to get out of. And it's really tough to get out that door. So it gave us time to look back. I'm panicking. I ended up in the patio area of Pulse, the backyard area. And we find a place where we can kick down the fence, and we're kicking and kicking. And finally we break it open. My foot gets stuck and I fall to the floor.
And people are trampling.
It twists. Yeah, it's like my leg twists and I fell on the floor. And I remember people seeing an exit. So they're trying to, get out of it. And at the same time, they were trampling me and I couldn't move. I was in so much pain that the only thing I knew how to do was to grab my phone and say goodbye to my mom. And it was really hard because
Did you call her?
I did. I called her.
You called her and got her on the phone.
Yeah, and she heard the shots and everything, and my phone died. So you can imagine my mom awaking everyone in the church, praying, going crazy, and then to wake up to the news in the morning of Pulse nightclub. So from there, I thank God someone came in the club that I still don't know who this person is to this day, came inside and picked me up and helped me to walk all the way to the 7-Eleven across the street.
Wow. We're coming to the end of this program, but we're going to have another part 2 of this, because this is the unbelievable story. I mean, I get teary-eyed listening to it right now. I can't imagine your mom getting that phone call from you, hearing the shots, knowing that she had the dream the year before, that you're going to be in a club, a lot of shooting, a lot of blood, and there you are. But the amazing thing is that you didn't stay there. And it's like Good Friday, and it's like Easter morning. Things looked really, really bad on what we now call Good Friday. It wasn't so good for the followers of Jesus back then, because they didn't know. And through that tragedy, Jesus rose from the dead and gave us life eternal. And he didn't leave you in Pulse, and he didn't leave you in struggles, and he redeemed you in an incredible way. And I want to talk about your ministry. For those that are watching this particular segment, I want to give that website, but then I want to explain more and go through more on our part 2 of this series about what you're doing now. What has happened since Pulse in the ministry that you're involved in? And so give us, Luis, that website. Tell the people how they can reach your ministry.
Yes, so it's fearlessidentity.co.
Fearlessidentity.co, fearlessidentity.co, and that's going to be right there on the screen. Write that down, because this is a ministry you want to get in touch with and learn about their resources and support this ministry as well. Well, I am sorry that we don't have any more time on this program, but we will come back next week with part 2 of this series.
I am almost speechless after that interview.
Yeah.
That was incredible. And listening to Angel and Luis, I was taken aback at the big news became almost no news, right? As soon as the narrative changed. And so it brings to my mind the question of, why has the mainline media, now that the story has changed, given so little attention to such an unbelievable story of redemption and restoration, God's love?
Well, I think that's true in a lot of media, that if the particular narrative doesn't fit the ideology of the media, then they go silent on it and they don't want to share any information. And so that's why I encourage people to reach out beside the typical media that they're looking at, because it's like they're only seeing one particular universe. And that universe may be completely wrong if they're not digging into other sources. And so that's why we're coming back with part 2, because you're not going to want to miss part 2. It will take from where this tragedy ended and how God transformed Angel and Luis and birthed an amazing ministry that you'll want to learn more about and get involved.
Thanks so much. And we look forward to next week when we bring back Angel and Luis for part 2. What we've seen today are examples of God's amazing love for us and his redemptive power to bring about change and new beginnings. Yet there are those in today's cancel culture that would look to silence the voices of Angel and Luis for even speaking about what the Lord has done for them. We can never let this happen. Free speech and religious freedom are inalienable rights that come from God, and they are worth fighting for. You can watch our next episode of Freedom Alive next week at the same time, right here on this channel.